Guys? So got the Envoy pulled in the shop tonight, and we're actually going to start trying to fab up a hot side for this this turbo right here. And so we're going to start by removing some of this intake stuff, and basically what I'm going to do is use the stock exhaust manifold and do a U on the bottom and just bring it straight back up, because it's basically like wide, so everything goes down and underneath. So there's not like a nice way to do it other than pretty much just doing a U and bringing it back up here. So that's kind of the plan. I'm going to do that with this turbo. So got to move all this intake stuff. This I think this is like a coolant overflow reservoir. We could probably get rid of that. And then the AC stuff has not been hooked up. And I actually got another radiator from the junkyard. So I got some parts from Amazon Speed Shop. I got a $50 wastegate, or a $50 blow-off valve, and an $80 wastegate. And then this thing over here is actually pretty interesting that I picked up as well. It's a basically a V-band right here. It goes into a little 90 and then up to a T3 and a T4. So kind of what I want to do with this whole setup right here is, as you guys know, on the, or if you remember, on the Civic, we had some boost creep issues because the way this manifold was designed, it wasn't like wastegate priority. So I actually welded the wastegate right here onto the turbine housing. And so kind of my idea with this thing, instead of making something that, you know, it's kind of stuck where it is, we could pretty much weld the wastegate right here. And then this will be like the Trevi's Customs, like add a turbo type of thing. Since this vehicle is for testing purposes, I don't really care a whole lot about it. And it's probably not going to live that long in this chassis. We're probably going to pull it out and, you know, maybe try to swap it into a manual, or, you know, put in a Fox body or do something with it. I haven't quite decided. And one of the other things I wanted to kind of do with this whole build, not necessarily just like trying to see how good this thing is. Like I don't think it's better than a 2J. I don't think we'll be able to make like 1,000 horsepower on the stock block and, you know, stuff like that, or like the stock internals, like some people have with 2Js. One of the things that I want to do is more so a challenge for myself, that being this is a 02 to 05, so this is an 05, and their factory, it's like an alpha N tuning strategy, and basically it won't see anything over atmospheric map pressure. There's ways to trick it, I guess, where you put like a 2-bar map sensor in it, and then when it's reading 1 bar, it's actually 2 bars. So you could kind of manipulate it that way, I've heard. But you can tune these things with HP tuners, but you basically can't tune them with boost. If you get an 06 ECU and harness, they have a mass airflow sensor, so you could scale the mass airflow sensor, and they have the proper VE tables to where you actually can tune them for boost. But this is an 06, and so kind of one of my ideas is to actually use this as a I want to try to run this engine on ECU Master. There's no like guides. There's nothing like explaining how to do that. Basically, just what I've learned at the ECU Master tuning class. So as far as there's no base maps. I mean, so there's no base maps. Nobody's done that. People have ran these on standalone ECUs before by basically doing that same thing. But I just think it would be a cool challenge for myself to see if I could set this up basically from scratch, get it all tuned, and, you know, see what we could do with it. So that's kind of the whole point of this project, is not only see how cool these things are, but mess with it, you know, with the ECU Master, see how much power I guess I could get out of it myself. And I guess worst case scenario, if I do mess this up, I could always swap to an 06 ECU and harness and just go that way. But kind of the plan with that is to actually kind of do a parallel ECU, so run 2 ECUs in the chassis. So one that basically controls a lot of everything as far as like the body control modules and all that stuff, and turning on the fuel pump, and probably like the radiator fans and stuff with the stock ECU, and then basically kind of piggyback the ECU Master in there. And mainly use the stock ECU to control the factory automatic transmission. So since this is a 4L60E, it is 2-wheel drive. We'll use the stock ECU to control the transmission, and then we'll basically kind of jump in parallel with it, share some sensors with the ECU Master, and then should be able to tune this thing hopefully pretty crazy, and then have a bunch of safeties and cuts and stuff with that kind of at our fingertips versus like a stock emissions ECU that, you know, versus like a race ECU. So gonna start messing with that, and I guess we'll see how far we get. Alright, so got all that stuff out of the way. It's nice not having to mess with the AC lines, compressor, and all that stuff. So this is actually a kind of an inner fender well, so I could actually pull that completely out if I wanted a little bit more room, and that would just kind of go above the tire. I actually kind of thought wrapping the exhaust manifold around the frame, but it would actually stick down just a little bit too low down there because the frame hangs pretty low. But I thought it would be kind of cool to kind of come up through here and put it over in this area, which still might be an option. So you can see how that factory header pretty much just goes straight down and swoops like it's actually going to go to the thing. Actually, that header's cracked. Look at that. Wow. Yeah, that's interesting. So the other option, I guess, is if I really wanted to, I could cut the header like right here and just do a U just going straight up like that. That might be another option for it too. But I don't really want to. If I did that, I would do a U and then I would do a V-band, so I wouldn't have to mess with it anymore. But that might be an option. I don't know. I'm gonna mess around with this thing. First, I'm gonna cut that pipe, and then I'm gonna actually cut this off right here and kind of mock that up and see what that looks like. So you can see this is what I have come up with. Threw a couple tack welds down there on the bottom, basically bent up these heater core lines, and they're already wrapped up really nice with some heat shield. So basically you see just a nice smooth thing just coming straight up here, and kind of the idea is I kind of want to put the turbo over here, so I'm going to come up with it just a little bit more, probably a little bit less than this, and once it's over here basically just turn it, and then we could go ahead and put our little 45. I'll probably chop this off a little bit lower right here, and yeah, we'll kind of do like basically a 45 to get it over in this zone, and we could probably do something with the downpipe, either going straight down here and go out of the fender, or we could probably just take it over here, drill a hole right there, and then literally just go straight out of the fender. That might be pretty cool. So we got the turbo basically mocked up. We just decided that to give this thing the full send, this hood on here sucks anyhow. Since this thing is a V-band, we could actually rotate it down and lay it over so the hood will actually close if we decide, you know, let's say we want to park this thing for the night, just yank off the exhaust, yank off the intake. We could flap the hood back down, park it outside, do whatever. But I think for now, this just gets it away from a lot of the heat stuff. Basically just run a little up pipe right here, take off the hood. And then what we'll actually do is we could do something super simple with the intercooler wise, just basically go straight down over there. And then what is actually going to work really good for the oil drain, since we're not trying to put a whole lot of effort into this whole project, we could basically take the oil drain right out of the bottom, run basically a 90 and drop it straight over here into the oil cap, or we could drill a hole like right here in the side of the valve cover and literally just drop it straight into there. So we don't have to spend a whole lot of time like dropping the oil pan, welding it, or, you know, risk like putting metal shavings in the oil pan by doing that. So yeah, I think I'm gonna mark this thing for a O2 sensor bung right here, for wideband bung, and then you can see it has a little bit of a wiggle to it, but everything still needs final, the final basically welds on it. And then what I'm actually going to do is make a little brace that comes off of the side over here and actually kind of bolts over here to the turbo manifold or something like that, just so this thing's not just hanging out up there by itself. Give it a little bit of a brace and actually brace it to the motor. So yeah, something super simple. Again, the whole point of this process is not to, it's not because I love this chassis, that I want to do that. It's that this engine right here, I want to see what this is about. I want to see how cool it is. I want to challenge myself with the ECU Master stuff, but we're going to finish messing with some things on here and probably fire it up on the stock ECU, obviously, for a little bit. Maybe we can drive it and see what it does. See if it'll go.
It doesn't have any mass airflow sensor at all?
No, it just has a map sensor right here.
Oh, it'll measure.
It'll measure 5 kPa. 5 kPa above atmospheric. It measures 105 kPa on the stock ECU. So
that's not a lot.
Supposedly you could put a
like
a 2-bar map sensor in here, and
don't you have that GM one, that 2.5 bar?
It's a 3-bar.
Oh yeah.
But basically, then what it would kind of tell it is that, since this is a 1-bar map sensor, a 3-bar map sensor, if it was reading like 105 in the cells, which is, its max efficiency rating, that would technically be 3 bars. So it's never going to read that. So I'd basically be able to hack it. Supposedly, I don't know. I want to do the ECU Master stuff, but we're going to get this thing fired up here in a little bit, hopefully. And I need to get some oil run into the turbo. And we got a couple things to figure out, but we're going to figure it out, and we'll get back to you. All right, guys, so we're pretty close. Well, actually, we're gonna start this thing now. But right now, you can see we got the turbo hooked up here. We got a oil feed line. Basically, there's like this weird little fitting in front of the oil filter. It's kind of like a block off passage. And I had like a oil pressure sending kit from LS1. And one of the fittings in there was 1/8 NTP, or adapted that to an 1/8 NTP. So adapted that to a 4N out, put this hose on here and got it on the turbo. Went ahead and welded the wastegate down here on the bottom of that. Got the turbo all clocked, got it mounted. You can see a little bit wiggly, but we're still gonna make a brace. And then now we got like a little faucet. This is gonna be like our little oil faucet. So obviously the plan is to drill the cap and basically put a 10-An bung on there. And so that'll basically just screw right onto the top of there, and that's where our oil should go. And it's above that, so it should still go down in there. So we're gonna go ahead and start it. It's still obviously on the stock ECU. I haven't done anything tuning wise. These things are map sensor, so maybe we'll hook up the charge pad. But I want to start it, see what it sounds like, just revving, and see if it sounds cool or not.
Did you see the rev recommendations? You gotta put it between like reverse and
reverse and I mean, that thing sounds pretty cool.
Oh, it sounds good, rips. It actually sounds dope. The turbo is surprising.
This is a knockoff. I think it's like a 64, 66 knockoff. And it's a ball bearing. It has a billet compressor wheel, obviously, and it's ball bearing. I actually put this on my drift car as a super temporary turbo as we were doing the giveaway because they didn't have Garrett didn't have the right one in stock. They didn't have the right housing that we were going to put on my drift car. So I got this as just a really quick temporary solution. But this is kind of what, like, when I approve of like using like eBay parts and stuff like this, is when you're just like testing stuff, like, let's make some power with it, let's do some other stuff with it, and you know, eventually if this thing actually starts making some real power, like, we're gonna put some real parts on it. But for now, you know, $80 wastegate. I think this was like a $600 and some turbo, but I got it for cheaper than that. And then like a $50 blow off valve. So what I want to do now is actually hook up like some sort of a charge pipe to it real quick with the intake air temp sensor, and just see what that does. All right, you ready for the first start? Well, with boost probably. So we got a nice, beautiful intercooler pipe, courtesy of, if you guys are diesel guys, you know that's like a 7.3 or a 6-liter intercooler pipe that goes to the intercooler. So this is like 3 1/4 right here on the throttle body to a 3-inch 90, 3-inch to 2.5 reducer to a 2.5 90 going up here. Obviously we got the oil and everything. I went ahead and I ran, there's this convenient vacuum line right there, already ready to go. Ran that straight to the wastegate. I don't think it's going to use it yet. And then just ran a quick little 90-degree up so it's not blowing stuff into the cab. And then added a little extendo guy to go down in there so this thing will quit popping out of there. Just for now. Yeah, let's fire it up and see what it sounds like with being able to get some load in it and actually use some air.
Did it just die? Oh, you fell off. So I don't know that this oil drain is like below the thing anymore.
Alright guys, so got everything all buttoned up, and as you can see, it revs and makes a lot of decent noises. It's kind of interesting. This turbo, it doesn't make noise on the intake side, but it has all the spoolie noise out of the exhaust, which will be fine now that we have the little up pipe. But yeah, pretty stoked to have this thing done like that. We pretty much turboed it in a day. I mean, I did a couple little things last night, but just did all this stuff within probably like 2.5 hours earlier. So I think the whole overall plan with this thing is going to be, we're not going to try to do any stock ECU stuff with it. And how I explained at the beginning of this video, I'm just going to try to like run the ECU master. So that should be the next video you see with this. We're going to be adding O2 sensor bung, try to do some stuff with the injectors, but we'll probably do all that stuff after I could confirm that I could get this thing to run on the ECU master. And again, we're going to leave the stock ECU in there to control the transmission and the body control module and all that type of stuff. But we're going to try to take the ECU master and actually have it do, run all the injectors and the VVT and the ignition and all that stuff. So it's definitely going to be a learning process for me. Again, that was kind of one of the points of this whole project. But yeah, I know it's funny watching the comments from the last video, you guys. Like, a lot of people don't care about this thing, but literally everybody who commented on this thing was stoked to figure out and learn and do all that. And that's kind of the whole point for me too, is just to see if this thing's good, see if we can tune it. And again, more so a challenge for myself. But yeah, I think this turbo kit, for what it is, it came together pretty quick. And yeah, just a little bit of a brace. And we should be making some spoolie noises, doing some burnouts, doing some stuff like that. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you guys think of this thing down below. And I really appreciate you guys watching, and we'll see you guys later.